My aunt tried to bankrupt my parents and get me fired because I defended my cousin at Christmas dinner, so I recorded every crime she committed. Years later, she paid $15,000 in restitution and lost everything. The first sign of trouble came 3 days after Christmas when my phone buzzed with a text from my dad. Got a letter from the HOA. Something about our lawn being half an inch too tall. $200 fine. I stared at the message knowing that Aunt Penelope was head of the HOA Architectural Review Committee. I drove over after my shift to help them sort it out and confirmed what I had already known. The violation notice had Aunt Penelope's signature at the bottom. My stomach dropped. Dad was already out there with a ruler, measuring grass blades. It's exactly 2 inches, just like the bylaws say. Mom stood on the porch, wringing her hands. Penelope's been on that board for 3 years. Why is she suddenly finding problems now? We both knew why. The next morning, another violation arrived. Mailbox was the wrong shade of black. $300 fine. Dad spent his lunch break at Home Depot, matching paint samples. By Thursday, they'd received 5 more notices. Driveway had oil stains that were barely visible. Trash cans were visible from the street for 37 minutes instead of the allowed 30. Christmas lights were still up on December 28th, 1 day past the deadline. Each violation came with escalating fines. That's $2,300 in 1 week, Mom said, spreading the notices across their kitchen table. Her hands trembled as she sorted through them. We can't afford this. Not with your dad's medical bills. I started documenting everything. Took photos of their property from every angle. Time-stamped when their trash cans went out and came back in. Measured the grass myself. Created a spreadsheet tracking every single violation notice. The patterns were obvious. Penelope was hitting them with something new every single day. Then things got worse. Mom worked as an administrative assistant at Willowbrook Private Academy, the same school where Penelope volunteered on the board. She'd been there 12 years, never had a single complaint. But suddenly, parents started pulling her aside with concerns. Mrs. Henderson cornered her in the parking lot. I heard your son was fired from Walmart for stealing. Is that true? I'm just worried about the people around our children. Mom called me in tears. 3 different parents asked me about it today. Mrs. Chen said Penelope mentioned it at the board meeting. Said she was worried about me having access to student records if I raised a thief. I drove straight to the school, my documentation folder thick with evidence. The principal, Mrs. Rodriguez, looked uncomfortable when I explained the situation. Your mother is an excellent employee, but if parents lose confidence, she trailed off, but the threat was clear. That weekend, my best friend Jake called at midnight. Dude, I just got an eviction notice. Your uncle says I missed 3 months of rent. Jake had never missed a payment in 2 years. He sent me screenshots of every cleared check, every receipt. Uncle Robert owned the building, but when Jake tried to call him, he wouldn't answer. The eviction notice gave him 10 days to vacate. I spent Sunday helping Jake document his payment history while fielding panicked texts from my parents about new HOA violations. A garden gnome was facing the wrong direction. The house numbers weren't reflective enough. The doormat was 2 inches over the property line. Each notice was signed by Penelope with increasingly larger signatures. My cousin Kathy's birthday party was the following Saturday. I almost didn't go, but Mom insisted we couldn't let Penelope drive us away from family. The moment I walked in, conversations stopped. Aunt Patricia whispered something to her daughter, who quickly ushered her kids to the other side of the yard. Penelope stood by the punch bowl, surrounded by relatives. It's just so concerning, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. First the theft from Walmart, now he's harassing me with baseless accusations. I have the texts right here. She pulled out her phone, showing something to the gathered aunts. Look, he called me evil, said I was destroying the family. I'm honestly frightened. I pulled out my own phone to show my actual texts, but she'd edited them, cut out all her threats, rearranged my words to sound unhinged. Uncle Michael shook his head at me. Maybe you should leave. This is a family party. I am family, I said, but half of them had already turned their backs. Monday morning, my manager at Walmart pulled me aside. Corporate called. They're cutting hours across the board, but yours are getting hit the hardest. You're down to 15 hours next week. I'd been full-time for 3 years, never had a performance issue. When I asked why, he looked uncomfortable. Orders from regional. Penelope Mitchell's son-in-law works up there, doesn't he? 15 hours wouldn't even cover gas to get to work. Elizabeth found me in the break room, staring at my new schedule. I told her everything, showed her my documentation folder that had grown to 3 inches thick. Her face went pale. I want to help, but Penelope called my firm yesterday, said if I didn't stop enabling your harassment of her, she'd make sure every partner knew about my financial situation, how I couldn't even afford the Christmas party I threw. She has photos of me at the plasma center. My hands clenched into fists. She's attacking everyone who stood by us. I can't lose this job, Elizabeth whispered. It's the only thing keeping me afloat. By February, the situation had spiraled beyond anything I'd imagined. Mom faced daily questions at work. Dad spent every weekend fixing imaginary HOA violations. Jake couch surfed after Uncle Robert's eviction went through despite the evidence. My hours at Walmart had been cut to 8 per week. Half the family wouldn't speak to me. Then I noticed Grandma acting strange. She called me one Tuesday, confused about missing money. I had $3,000 in my checking for the property taxes, but it's gone. The bank says I withdrew it, but I don't remember. I drove her to the bank where we discovered a pattern. Regular withdrawals over the past 2 months, always just under the amount that would trigger federal reporting. $15,000 total. Penelope helps me with my banking, Grandma said slowly. She has my power of attorney. My blood ran cold. I helped Grandma file a complaint, but when we confronted Penelope, she came prepared. She produced receipts for home repairs, medical equipment, grocery delivery, all signed with a shaky signature that might have been Grandma's. She's been getting confused lately, Penelope told the bank manager, patting Grandma's hand. Yesterday, she accused the mailman of stealing her newspapers. I've been keeping careful records of everything I help her with. Grandma looked between us, confusion clouding her eyes. I don't remember signing these. Of course you don't, dear, Penelope cooed. That's why I'm here to help. The bank manager suggested we speak with Adult Protective Services if we had concerns, but his tone made it clear he believed Penelope. She'd been a customer for 30 years. I was just the grandson who'd been fired for theft, according to the rumors she'd spread. I started recording everything, every conversation, every interaction. Georgia was a one-party consent state, so it was legal. I kept my phone in my pocket, voice recorder running whenever Penelope was near. But she was careful, always speaking in code, always maintaining plausible deniability. March brought a new crisis. My teenage sister had applied to 6 different summer camps, all focused on her passion for marine biology. She'd spent months on the applications, writing essays about her dream of studying ocean conservation. One by one, the rejections arrived. Form letters with no explanation. Zoe cried for hours, convinced she wasn't good enough. Then I learned Penelope's best friend Catherine ran the Bay Area Summer Camp Association. I drove to Catherine's office with my growing folder of evidence. She wouldn't see me, but her assistant let slip that some concerns had been raised about the family situation, and that camp environments need to be stable for all participants. That night, I sat with Zoe as she tore up her marine biology posters. Maybe I'm just not smart enough, she said. I wanted to tell her the truth, but how could I explain that her dreams were being crushed because I'd stood up for Elizabeth at Christmas? The next week, our parents' HOA fines had reached $11,000. They'd taken out a loan to pay them, but new violations kept arriving. The grass was too green. The shutters were 0.3 degrees off center. A bird had left droppings on the driveway for more than 4 hours. I kept documenting, kept recording, kept fighting. But Penelope had been planning this for months, maybe years. She had connections I'd never imagined. The private school board, the HOA, regional management at Walmart, the camp association, even Uncle Robert's rental properties. She'd built a network designed to crush anyone who crossed her. By April, I was down to 1 4-hour shift per week at Walmart. Mom had been transferred to a basement office away from parents. Dad spent every weekend fixing violations that didn't exist. Jake lived in his car. Zoe had given up on summer camp. Grandma's accounts showed more mysterious withdrawals, but I kept recording, and I wasn't the only one watching. The recording I'd captured at Kathy's party wasn't much, but it was something. Penelope's voice, clear as day, talking about how she'd teach that ungrateful brat a lesson he'll never forget. I backed it up to 3 different cloud services and emailed it to myself, but I needed more. Zoe found me in my room that night, clutching her phone. I've been taking screenshots, she said quietly, of everything Aunt Penelope posts in the family group chat. She brags about stuff when she thinks only her supporters are watching. My 13-year-old cousin had been documenting Penelope's cruelty since that Christmas 5 years ago. She showed me folder after folder on her phone, screenshots of Penelope gloating about the HOA fines, messages where she discussed calling the camp association, even a photo Penelope had posted of herself at the bank with Grandma, captioned, "Taking care of family finances. Someone has to." I started keeping a diary too, Zoe said, pulling out a worn notebook. Every mean thing she's done, every time she made Elizabeth cry, every lie she told about you. I hugged her tight. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was scared, but watching them destroy your sister's dreams? Her voice hardened. That was too much. The next morning brought fresh disasters. Dad called from work. His company had received an anonymous complaint about him taking too many sick days for his medical appointments. The HR department was conducting a full review. Mom's basement office had a leak, ruining years of files she was responsible for. The school board would hold her accountable for the damage. Jake texted that Uncle Robert had filed a lawsuit for the unpaid rent, plus damages. 3 months he'd never missed, plus fees and penalties. The total came to $12,000 Jake didn't have. I drove to Uncle Robert's office, my recorder running. His secretary wouldn't let me pass the waiting room, but I could hear him on the phone. Penelope says the kid's unstable. Better to get your friend out now before something worse happens. That afternoon, I discovered Penelope had been busier than I'd realized. My car insurance had mysteriously doubled. Turns out someone had reported multiple accidents I'd never had. My phone plan showed hundreds of dollars in international calls I'd never made. Even my library account showed overdue fines for books I'd never checked out. She was attacking from every angle, using every system she could access. Elizabeth called me crying. The managing partner pulled me aside. Someone sent him photos from the plasma center, screenshots of my grocery purchases, even my student loan statements. They're questioning whether someone with such poor financial judgment should be handling client funds. Let me help, I said, but she cut me off. I can't be seen with you. I'm sorry, I just can't. The line went dead. Mom's situation at school deteriorated daily. Parents pulled their children from activities she supervised. The leak in her basement office had spread, and now they were blaming her for not reporting it sooner. Mrs. Rodriguez suggested she might want to consider other opportunities. 20 years of perfect reviews, Mom said over dinner, pushing food around her plate. And now suddenly I'm incompetent? Dad set down his fork. The company wants me to take unpaid leave while they investigate the sick day complaint. We can't afford that, not with the HOA fines. Zoe hadn't touched her food either. I got uninvited from Marissa's birthday party. Her mom said there was too much drama in our family. I spent the night going through Zoe's evidence, cross-referencing it with my recordings. The pattern was intricate, deliberate. Penelope had turned our extended family into weapons, each one aimed at a different part of our lives. The next day, I tried to cash my pathetic Walmart paycheck. The bank teller frowned at her screen. There's a hold on your account. Suspected fraudulent activity. What fraudulent activity? I can't give details, but you'll need to speak with our fraud department. They're backed up about 3 weeks. 3 weeks without access to my money. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking. Penelope had thought of everything. That's when I noticed Grandma's car at the bank. But Grandma wasn't driving. Penelope was. I watched them through the window. Grandma signed paper after paper while Penelope hovered over her, guiding her hand. I burst through the doors, recorder running. Grandma, don't sign anything else. Penelope's face twisted into a smile. Oh look, it's my nephew, the one who's been harassing me. She raised her voice. Security, this man is harassing us. The security guard moved toward me, but Grandma looked up, confusion clearing for just a moment. He's my grandson. He's not harassing anyone. She's confused, Penelope said quickly. She doesn't know what she's saying. I pulled out my phone, showing the guard my ID. I'm her grandson. I'm concerned about financial elder abuse. The bank manager appeared, answered, the same one from before. Is there a problem here? Penelope's voice dripped honey. My nephew has been stalking me. I have a cease and desist letter from my lawyer. She pulled out an official-looking document. He's not supposed to come within 50 feet of me. I'd never seen this letter before. The security guard reached for my arm. Sir, you'll need to leave. Check the date on that letter, I said desperately. Check when it was supposedly delivered. But they were already escorting me out. Through the window, I watched Penelope pat Grandma's hand and return to the papers. My phone rang. Jake, panicking. The sheriff just showed up. They're enforcing the eviction. I have an hour to get my stuff out. I raced to Jake's apartment, but by the time I arrived, his belongings were on the curb. Uncle Robert's property manager stood there with a clipboard, documenting damages to charge him for. A scratch on the wall Jake swore was there when he moved in. Carpetware in high traffic areas. Normal stuff transformed into thousands in fees. I took pictures when I moved in, Jake said. They're on my laptop, which was now locked inside the apartment he couldn't access. That evening, I sat with Zoe as she worked on her diary. She'd filled 3 notebooks now. 5 years of Penelope's cruelty documented in careful teenage handwriting. Photos, screenshots, dates, times, a record of every family gathering where Penelope had hurt someone. She made cousin Amy cry at her own wedding, Zoe read. Told her the dress made her look fat right before she walked down the aisle. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. You should stop now. Penelope's voice purred through the speaker. Before things get worse for your family. Is that a threat? I kept my voice steady, recorder running. Of course not. I'm just concerned about your parents. That HOA meeting next week. They're voting on whether to start foreclosure proceedings for unpaid fines. And your mother's job review is coming up. So many complaints from parents. Would be a shame if she lost her pension. You won't get away with this. Get away with what? Serving on community boards? Helping my elderly mother with her finances? Being concerned about my nephew's unstable behavior? She laughed. Oh, I have something else for you. Check your email. The email contained a letter from a law firm. Cease and desist for harassment, defamation, and stalking. If I contacted Penelope again or spoke about her to family members, they'd pursue criminal charges. Your cousin Nathan is quite a good lawyer, Penelope continued. He was happy to help when I explained how you've been terrorizing me. Nathan, another family member she'd turned against us. Why? I asked. Because I told the truth at Christmas? Because you humiliated me. In my own family. In front of everyone. Her voice turned ice cold. You think you're some kind of hero? You're nothing. A grocery store clerk who thought he could embarrass me? I've been planning this for months. Every detail. Every connection. Every person who might help you. Grandma will figure out what you're doing. Your grandmother can barely remember what she had for breakfast. And even if she could, who'd believe her over me? I've been taking care of her for years. I have documentation for every penny. Receipts for things she needed. Home repairs, medical equipment, all perfectly legal. That you forged. Prove it. She hung up. I stared at the cease and desist letter. Nathan had been thorough. Any contact with Penelope, any discussion of her with family members, any social media posts about the situation, all would be considered violations. Zoe looked at the letter over my shoulder. She can't stop me from talking. I'm a minor, and I'm not harassing anyone by keeping a diary. The next few days blurred together. Dad's company put him on unpaid leave pending investigation. Mom received her termination notice. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing to do with performance. Jake managed to save most of his belongings, but now lived in his car in Walmart parking lots, moving each night to avoid police. My sister's guidance counselor called her in to discuss her family situation and whether she needed support services. The humiliation on her face when she came home broke my heart. Everyone at school knows, she whispered. They all think you're some kind of criminal. The HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday. Mom and Dad had scraped together partial payment for the fines, but it wasn't enough. Foreclosure was on the agenda. I spent Wednesday night organizing everything. Zoe's diaries, my recordings, bank statements, property photos, 5 months of evidence that painted a clear picture of Penelope's campaign. But who would look at it? The cease and desist meant I couldn't share it with family. The authorities had already shown they believed Penelope over us. Thursday arrived with a new crisis. Grandma had fallen at home. When the paramedics arrived, Penelope was already there, telling them about Grandma's confusion and memory issues. She'd prepared a folder of medical information, prescription lists, emergency contacts, all positioning herself as the responsible caregiver. I should probably have medical power of attorney too, I heard her tell the EMT, for situations like this. I tried to ride in the ambulance with Grandma, but Penelope blocked me. He's been harassing her, she told the paramedics, contributing to her stress. I have documentation. They made me follow in my car. At the hospital, Penelope had already filled out the paperwork, listed herself as primary contact. When I protested, she produced the cease and desist letter. He's not supposed to be near me, she told hospital security. I'm frightened for my safety. They made me wait in the parking lot while Penelope sat with Grandma. Through the window, I could see her talking to doctors, nodding seriously, occasionally wiping away what looked like tears of concern. My phone rang. Mom, sobbing. The HOA voted. They're starting foreclosure. We have 30 days. 30 days. After 15 years in that house. I drove home in a daze. Zoe met me at the door with her laptop. I've been digitizing everything. Scanning my diaries, organizing the screenshots, building a timeline. What's the point? We can't use any of it. Not yet. But Grandma's birthday is next month. The whole family will be there. Even the ones who've been avoiding us. Grandma's 85th birthday. The one event Penelope couldn't exclude us from without looking suspicious. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Elizabeth, alone in her apartment, afraid to even text me. About Jake sleeping in his car. About my parents, about to lose their home. About my sister, giving up on her dreams. All because I'd told the truth at Christmas. The next morning brought a small miracle. Grandma called me herself, voice clear and strong. I need to see you, without Penelope knowing. I met her at the hospital cafeteria while Penelope was supposedly getting her prescriptions filled. Grandma's eyes were sharp, focused. I've been playing more confused than I am, she said quietly. It was the only way to figure out what Penelope was doing. She's been stealing from me for years, small amounts at first, but lately. We can go to the police. I have evidence. Not yet. She's covered her tracks too well, but I've been working with someone. Your cousin Elizabeth Elizabeth helped me set up new accounts Penelope doesn't know about, moved most of my money there, and I've already removed her from all my legal documents. She just doesn't know it yet. My heart raced. When, 3 weeks ago, Elizabeth did it all properly, filed everything with the court. Penelope thinks she still has power of attorney, but she doesn't. Not anymore. Why haven't you told anyone? Because I needed to see how far she'd go, how much she'd steal, how many lies she'd tell. Grandma's face hardened. She's been planning to sell my house. I heard her on the phone with a realtor. My birthday party. She's going to announce that she's taking over my care completely, moving me to a facility, taking control of all my assets. We can't let that happen. We won't, but we need everyone there to see it. The whole family needs to witness what she really is. Grandma squeezed my hand. That recording device of yours. Bring it to the party. Zoe's evidence too. Everything. Penelope returned then. All false concern and medication bottles. I left quickly, but not before Grandma winked at me. The next 2 weeks were the hardest yet. The house foreclosure moved forward. Mom couldn't find new work. Somehow, every place she applied had already heard about the problems at her last job. Dad's investigation dragged on. Jake had to sell his car for cash to survive, now truly homeless. But Zoe and I prepared. We organized 5 years of evidence into a clear narrative. Every screenshot, every recording, every diary entry. We made copies, stored them in multiple places. Zoe even created a presentation, complete with timeline and financial documentation. Like a school project, she said. Except this one matters. 3 days before the party, Penelope made her biggest mistake. She got cocky. I was working my single 4-hour shift when she came into Walmart. She found me in the cereal aisle, smiling like a cat with a mouse. How's the job hunt going? Oh wait, you can't look for other work, not with your reputation. She leaned closer. Your parents' house will make a nice rental property. Uncle Robert already has a buyer interested. You're destroying our entire family over one Christmas dinner? Number, I'm teaching a lesson. You don't humiliate Penelope Mitchell. Not in front of everyone. Not when I've spent years building my reputation. She examined her manicured nails. Your grandmother's house will sell for quite a bit too. Enough to cover her care for years. Well, the care I say she needs. She's sharper than you think. Is she? The woman who can't remember signing papers? Who gets confused about missing money? Who falls down and needs constant supervision? Penelope laughed. By the time I'm done, the whole family will thank me for taking such good care of her. She didn't notice my phone in my chest pocket, camera facing out, recording everything. Anyway, enjoy your last few days of employment. I heard corporate's doing another round of cuts. Shame you don't have the seniority to survive them. She swept out, leaving me standing there among the cereal boxes. But for the first time in months, I smiled. She'd finally slipped, and I had it all on video. The morning of Grandma's party, our family was in ruins. The foreclosure notice was taped to my parents' door. Mom had filed for unemployment. Dad's medical condition had worsened from the stress. Jake was staying at a shelter. My sister had withdrawn from everyone, spending hours in her room. But Zoe and I were ready. We arrived at the community center early. Penelope was already there, directing decorations, playing the perfect granddaughter. She'd invited everyone, all the relatives who'd turned their backs on us, the ones who'd believed her lies, even Nathan with his law degree and cease and desist letters. You're not supposed to be here, Nathan said when he saw me. The letter clearly states, the letter says I can't contact Penelope or discuss her with family members. It doesn't say I can't attend my grandmother's birthday party. I'd done my research. Unless you're planning to ban me from family events entirely? He frowned but couldn't argue the point. Elizabeth arrived, looking thin and tired. She avoided eye contact with me but sat near Zoe. One by one, the family filled the room. Uncle Robert with his rental properties, Aunt Patricia with her medical school son, the cousins who'd unfriended me on social media, the aunts who'd whispered about me at every gathering, and Grandma, wheeled in by Penelope, looking every bit the confused elderly woman Penelope had painted her to be. The party proceeded normally at first. Cake, presents, stilted conversation where everyone avoided mentioning the elephant in the room, our family's destruction. Penelope gave a speech about the importance of caring for our elderly relatives, how blessed she felt to be able to help Grandma in her time of need. Then she dropped her bomb. Actually, I have an announcement. As you all know, Mother has been struggling with memory issues and confusion. After her recent fall and some concerning financial irregularities, I've decided it's time for more comprehensive care. She produced a folder of official-looking documents. I found a wonderful assisted living facility. They have an opening next week, and to ensure Mother's assets are protected, I'll be taking full control of her finances and property. Murmurs around the room, some concerned, others approving. Penelope had laid the groundwork well. Of course, this means selling her house, but the equity will ensure she gets the best care possible. Penelope dabbed at her eyes. It's not easy, but sometimes we have to make hard decisions for our loved ones. That's when Grandma stood up. Not shuffled, not struggled. Stood up straight and strong, pushing away the wheelchair she didn't need. That's very interesting, Penelope, especially since you haven't had power of attorney for 3 weeks. The room went silent. Grandma pulled out her own folder. You see, I've been watching you steal from me, recording every forged check, every unauthorized withdrawal. $15,000 just in the last 6 months. Mother, you're confused. No, Penelope, you're confused. You think I didn't notice? You think I couldn't see what you were doing to my grandson's family? Destroying their lives because he told the truth about Elizabeth? Elizabeth stood up, pulling out legal documents. I helped your grandmother revoke your power of attorney 3 weeks ago. Every document was filed properly with the court. You have no legal authority over her finances or medical decisions. Penelope's face went white. You can't do this. I have receipts. I have documentation. Forged receipts, I said, standing up with my phone. I have a recording of you admitting it. Admitting to planning to sell her house. Admitting to destroying my family out of spite. Zoe connected her laptop to the projector we'd secretly set up earlier. And I have 5 years of evidence. Screenshots of you bragging about the HOA fines. Messages about calling the camp association. Photos of you at the bank with Grandma, taking money that wasn't yours. The presentation began. 5 years of cruelty laid out in devastating detail. Penelope's campaign against our family, documented by a 13-year-old who'd watched it all unfold. This is harassment, Penelope shrieked. Nathan, do something! Nathan was staring at the screen, seeing his cease and desist letter used to silence victims of elder abuse. His face had gone pale. Financial elder abuse is a felony, Elizabeth said calmly. Theft, forgery, fraud. We have enough evidence for criminal charges. The only question is whether we file them. Uncle Robert stood up. Penelope, is this true? Did you make me evict Jake based on lies? The HOA fines, someone else said. Were those real? The room erupted. 5 years of manipulation unraveling in minutes. Family members realizing they'd been used as weapons against us. Penelope tried to run, but Grandma's voice stopped her cold. Sit down, Penelope. We're not done. Security appeared. Grandma had hired them, anticipating this moment. They stood by the doors, not threatening, just present. You have 2 choices, Grandma continued. Sign this confession and agreement to pay restitution, or we call the police right now. Elizabeth has the district attorney on speed dial. You can't prove anything, Penelope snarled, but her voice shook. I hit play on my phone. Her voice filled the room, clear and damning. Your grandmother's house will sell for quite a bit too, enough to cover her care for years. Well, the care I say she needs. Then the Walmart recording, her admitting to orchestrating everything, bragging about destroying our family, planning to steal Grandma's house. The room was dead silent. Penelope signed the papers. The aftermath was swift. Uncle Robert tore up Jake's eviction notice and refunded every penny. The HOA board, realizing they'd been manipulated, voided all the fines against my parents. Mom's former employer, fearing a lawsuit, offered her job back with a raise and apology. The camp association, mortified at being used for personal revenge, accepted my sister into their best program with a full scholarship. And Walmart, when corporate learned the truth, properly documented and submitted through official channels, they were appalled. My manager had recorded everything too, it turned out. He'd been building his own case against the regional manager's interference. I was promoted to department manager within a month. But the best part was the family. The relatives who'd shunned us apologized one by one. They'd been manipulated, fed lies, turned into weapons. Most had genuinely believed Penelope's version of events. We should have known, Aunt Patricia said, tears in her eyes. When you stood up for Elizabeth at Christmas, we should have stood with you. Not everyone came back. Some were too ashamed, others too proud, but the ones who mattered did. The next Christmas, Elizabeth hosted again. 15 people this time. No catering. Everyone brought dishes. No expensive champagne. Just wine from the grocery store. No pretense. No showing off. No judgment. Just family. Penelope wasn't there, of course. She'd moved 3 states away after the scandal broke. The family gossip network, the same one she'd used against us, had turned on her. Everyone knew what she'd done. As we sat around Elizabeth's table, sharing Chinese takeout and homemade cookies, Zoe raised her glass of sparkling cider. To telling the truth, she said, even when it costs everything. To family, Grandma added. The real kind. The kind that stands by you. We clinked glasses, and I caught Elizabeth's eye. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. It had cost us everything to tell the truth at Christmas. But in the end, we'd gained something more valuable. A family free of toxic people, united by truth instead of torn apart by lies. And Penelope, she learned the hard way that pride comes before a fall, and that when you use family as weapons, eventually those weapons turn back on you. I need to craft an ending that, 1, continues from where the middle section ended. Penelope just signed the papers after being exposed. 2, shows the immediate aftermath and consequences through action. 3, maintains 97% action events, approximately 1,697 words of action. 4, only includes 3% resolution, approximately 53 words. At the very end, 5, avoids repetitive phrases from previous sections. 6, shows realistic outcomes without fairy tale endings. 7, maintains all established character names. Exactly. 8, focuses on what happens next, not internal reflection. The pen shook in Penelope's hand as she scrawled her signature across the confession. The security guards stepped closer, ready to escort her out if needed. But Penelope wasn't done fighting. This is coercion, she hissed, throwing the pen down. I'm signing under duress. Any judge will throw this out. Elizabeth picked up the signed document, examining it carefully. Actually, we have 3 witnesses who are officers of the court, security camera footage of this entire event, and your voluntary signature, plus all the evidence we've already documented. Penelope's eyes darted around the room, searching for allies. But Uncle Robert had moved to stand with Jake, pulling out his checkbook. Aunt Patricia sat with her head in her hands. Even Nathan had stepped away from his client, studying the evidence on Zoe's laptop screen. The district attorney is a personal friend, Elizabeth continued, pulling out her phone. 1 call and you'll be arrested before you leave this building. Or you can honor this agreement. Full restitution, no contact with any family members you've harmed, and you walk away. Penelope lunged for the laptop, trying to grab it from Zoe. The security guards moved instantly, restraining her arms. Zoe clutched the computer tighter, backing away. That's my property, Penelope screamed. Those screenshots were taken without permission. Screenshots of messages you posted in a family group chat are not private property, Elizabeth said calmly, and attempting to destroy evidence is another felony. Grandma walked over to Penelope, no trace of confusion in her movements. You stole $15,000 from me. You tried to destroy my grandson's family. You manipulated everyone in this room. And for what? Because someone told the truth about Elizabeth's financial situation? He humiliated me, Penelope snarled, still struggling against the security guards. In front of everyone. Made me look like a fool. No, Grandma said quietly. You did that yourself. Every cruel comment, every judgment, every time you made Elizabeth feel small for being generous despite her struggles. He just held up a mirror. The security guards released Penelope but stayed close. She straightened her jacket, trying to salvage some dignity. Fine, I'll pay the restitution, but I want all copies of that evidence destroyed. Absolutely not, Elizabeth said. The evidence stays with us as insurance. You violate any part of this agreement and it goes straight to the authorities. Uncle Robert finished writing his check to Jake. $12,000 for the fake eviction, plus another $5,000 for the emotional distress and moving costs. He handed it over with shaking hands. I'm sorry, son. I should have verified before acting on Penelope's word. Jake took the check, staring at it in disbelief. disbelief. Thank you. This means I can get an apartment again. Across the room, members of the HOA board huddled around Mom and Dad. The board president, Mr. Jameson, looked mortified. We'll void all the fines immediately, and we'll need to review Penelope's other actions as committee chair. God knows how many other families she's targeted. 2,300 in fines that were completely fabricated, Dad said, showing them his documentation folder, plus the loan interest we had to pay. We'll reimburse everything, Mr. Jameson assured them, and Penelope's being removed from the board effective immediately. Catherine from the camp association approached my sister, wringing her hands. I'm so sorry. Penelope told me your family was unstable, that it wouldn't be safe for other campers. I should have investigated instead of taking her word. Zoe stood taller. I worked really hard on those applications. I know. I've actually read them now. They're excellent. We'd love to offer you a spot in our marine biology intensive program. Full scholarship, plus a mentorship with our lead instructor. My sister's face lit up for the first time in months. Really? Absolutely. Your passion for ocean conservation shines through every word. Meanwhile, Mrs. Rodriguez had cornered Mom near the punch bowl. The board is horrified by what happened. We'd like to offer you your position back, with a promotion to senior administrative coordinator, and a raise to compensate for the distress. Mom glanced at me, then back at Mrs. Rodriguez. I'll need that in writing, and a formal apology to the school community clearing my name. Of course, we'll send a letter to all parents explaining that false rumors were spread about your family. My manager from Walmart appeared at my elbow. I hadn't even noticed him arrive. Corporate sent me to handle this personally. The regional manager who cut your hours, he's been terminated. Turns out you weren't the only employee he targeted based on personal connections. He handed me an envelope. Retroactive pay for all the hours you should have worked, plus a promotion to department manager. Corporate was impressed by how you documented everything. That's exactly the kind of detail-oriented management we need. I opened the envelope, seeing a check that would cover months of lost wages. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank your detailed records. Without them, we couldn't have traced the pattern of abuse. Penelope watched all of this unfold, her face growing paler with each interaction. Nathan approached her hesitantly. I'll need to withdraw as your counsel. Conflict of interest, given that I was unknowingly participating in elder abuse. You can't abandon me now. Penelope grabbed his arm. Nathan pulled away. I'm also returning your retainer. I won't profit from this. Elizabeth stepped forward with a banker's box. These are Grandma's financial records. Every forged check, every unauthorized withdrawal. We've calculated the total at $15,342. You have 30 days to pay it back. 30 days? Penelope's voice cracked. I don't have that kind of liquid cash. Then I suggest you liquidate some assets, Grandma said coldly. Maybe sell some of that jewelry you bought with my money. Zoe connected her laptop to a printer someone had brought, producing copies of the agreement. Everyone who was affected needs to sign as witnesses. This protects all of us. One by one, family members lined up to sign. Mom, Dad, Jake, my sister, me, Grandma, even Elizabeth. Each signature another nail in the coffin of Penelope's schemes. You're all going to regret this, Penelope muttered, but the fight had gone out of her voice. No, Aunt Patricia said suddenly, standing up. The only thing we regret is believing you, letting you poison us against good people. She walked over to me. I'm sorry. When you defended Elizabeth at Christmas, I should have listened instead of leaving. Other relatives began approaching, offering apologies. Uncle Michael admitted he'd been wrong to ask me to leave Kathy's party. Cousins who'd unfriended me on social media pulled out their phones to send new friend requests. The aunts who'd whispered about me at gatherings now whispered about Penelope instead. This isn't over, Penelope said, grabbing her purse. But when she tried to leave, the security guards blocked her path. Actually, there's one more thing, Elizabeth said. The cease and desist letter you had Nathan send. We need that formally withdrawn and a written agreement that you won't pursue any legal action against the victims of your fraud. Nathan already had the paperwork ready. Sign here. This withdraws all previous legal threats and prevents any future litigation related to these matters. Penelope signed with shaking hands. The moment she finished, the security guards stepped aside. She fled the community center, her heels clicking rapidly against the floor. Should someone follow her? Jake asked. Make sure she doesn't try to destroy evidence or hide assets? Elizabeth shook her head. I've already frozen the accounts we know about through a preliminary injunction. She can't move money without the court's permission. The party resumed, but with a completely different energy. Instead of stilted conversation and judgment, there was genuine warmth. Family members who'd been turned against each other began reconnecting. Uncle Robert offered Jake a different apartment at half the market rate. The HOA board members discussed implementing new oversight measures to prevent future abuse. Zoe gave an impromptu presentation, showing her evidence in detail. Family members gasped at screenshots they'd never seen, messages Penelope had hidden from them, the careful documentation of 5 years of cruelty. She called me fat at my wedding, Cousin Amy confirmed, seeing Zoe's diary entry. I thought I was being too sensitive. She told me my miscarriage was probably for the best because I couldn't afford a baby anyway, another cousin added. Story after story emerged. Penelope's cruelty hadn't been limited to our immediate family. She'd hurt dozens of relatives over the years, always careful to do it privately, always maintaining her public image. How did we not see this? Aunt Patricia asked, tears streaming down her face. Because she was careful, Grandma explained. She isolated her victims, made them feel like they were overreacting. Classic manipulation tactics. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I expected Penelope making more threats, but it was from a reporter at the local paper. Heard about the HOA scandal. Would love to interview you about systemic abuse in community organizations. I showed it to Elizabeth, who nodded. Public exposure might prevent her from doing this elsewhere, but let me handle the media. We want to focus on the systemic issues, not personal drama. The party continued past its scheduled end time. No one wanted to leave. Uncle Robert pulled me aside. I've been thinking. I have a property management position opening up. Someone detail-oriented, good with documentation. Interested? I just got promoted at Walmart, I said. I understand, but if you ever want to change, the offer stands. Someone with your integrity would be an asset. Mrs. Rodriguez approached Zoe. We have a new anti-bullying program program starting next year. We could use a student advisor who understands how manipulation works. Would you consider it? Zoe straightened her shoulders. I'd need to see the program structure first. Make sure it addresses systemic issues, not just individual conflicts. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. Exactly the kind of critical thinking we need. As the sun set, family members began organizing future gatherings. Potlucks instead of catered events. Rotating hosts instead of always burdening Elizabeth. Genuine connection instead of performance. I can host Easter, Aunt Patricia offered. Nothing fancy, just family. I'll do 4th of July, Uncle Michael added. Barbecue in the backyard. Elizabeth looked overwhelmed. You don't have to. Yes, we do, Aunt Patricia interrupted. You carried this family for years while struggling. It's our turn. Grandma pulled me aside as people started cleaning up. You know she'll try something else. Penelope doesn't give up easily. We'll be ready, I assured her. Zoe's still documenting everything. We all are now. Good, but also, live your life. Don't let watching for her consume you. Jake appeared with a group of cousins, all offering to help him move into his new apartment. Uncle Robert handed over the keys immediately, waiving any deposit. Fresh start, he said simply. My sister chatted excitedly with Catherine about the marine biology program. They'd already scheduled her orientation and assigned her a mentor who specialized in coral reef restoration. Mom and Dad stood together, reading through the HOA's formal apology letter. The board had not only voided all fines but offered to compensate them for the stress and time spent fighting false violations. We can finally repaint the shutters any color we want, Dad joked weakly. As we packed up Zoe's evidence, she pulled out one last item, a photo from that Christmas 5 years ago. Elizabeth in her black dress, surrounded by family, trying so hard to make everyone happy despite her struggles. We should frame this, Zoe said. Remember why we fought. Elizabeth appeared beside us, looking at the photo. I still have that dress. Could never afford to replace it. Wear it to Easter, I suggested. It looked beautiful then, and it'll look beautiful now. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Maybe I will. Nathan approached our group hesitantly. I owe you all an apology. I should have investigated before sending that cease and desist. I let family loyalty blind me to the truth. You couldn't have known, Elizabeth said diplomatically. Penelope was very convincing. Still, I'd like to offer my services pro bono if you need any legal help recovering from this. It's the least I can do. As the community center emptied, we found ourselves among the last to leave. The security guards Penelope had feared would arrest her instead helped us carry boxes of evidence to our cars. Hell of a birthday party, one of them commented. Though I've seen worse family drama. Worse than this? Zoe asked incredulously. You'd be surprised what people do to each other over money and pride. We caravanned to Grandma's house, where she'd prepared coffee and sandwiches. The family members who'd stood by us gathered in her living room, finally able to speak freely without fear of Penelope's retaliation. I've been thinking, Grandma said, settling into her armchair. This all started because Penelope couldn't stand being embarrassed. But really, it started long before that. Years of small cruelties we all ignored. The missing step, Jake said suddenly. That's what they call it. The broken stair everyone learns to step over instead of fixing. Penelope was our missing step. Not anymore, Mom said firmly. We're fixing it now. Elizabeth's phone rang, her managing partner calling on a Saturday evening. We all held our breath as she stepped into the kitchen to take the call. She returned looking stunned. They're promoting me to senior associate. Said my handling of the financial abuse case showed exactly the kind of advocacy skills they value. You mean Grandma's case? I asked. Apparently word got around the legal community. Elder financial abuse is a serious issue, and the way I documented everything impressed them. She sank onto the couch. They're also increasing my salary. I might actually be able to afford groceries and loan payments. Zoe pulled out her diary again, writing furiously. I want to document this too. The good parts. How we rebuilt. That's a wonderful idea, Grandma encouraged. But remember, rebuilding takes time. There'll be setbacks. As if on cue, my phone rang. Penelope's number. I almost didn't answer, but Elizabeth nodded. Speakerphone. We all witness it. You've destroyed my life. Penelope's voice slurred. She'd clearly been drinking. My reputation is ruined. The country club already called to revoke my membership. You destroyed your own life, I said calmly. We just exposed it. I'll make you pay. All of you. You think this is over? I have connections you can't imagine. Penelope, Elizabeth interrupted. You're on speaker with 8 witnesses. This call is being recorded. You're violating the agreement you signed. Would you like to continue threatening us? The line went dead. She'll try again, Nathan said quietly. She's lost everything that mattered to her. Status, control, reputation. People like that don't just accept defeat. Then we'll be ready, Zoe said, saving the call recording to multiple devices. We know her tactics now. The evening wound down with planning sessions. How to support Jake getting back on his feet. How to help Mom and Dad recover from the financial strain. How to ensure my sister could take full advantage of her camp opportunity. It's what family does, Uncle Robert said simply. The real kind of family. As we prepared to leave, Grandma pulled each of us aside for private words. When she got to me, she pressed something into my hand. A check. Grandma? No, it's not charity. It's justice. That money Penelope stole, this is part of what I recovered. You lost wages, opportunities, dignity. This helps balance the scales. I looked at the check. It was enough to cover my expenses for months. This is too much. It's not enough, but it's a start. She patted my cheek. You stood up for Elizabeth when no one else would. That took courage. Courage should be rewarded, not punished. We drove home in comfortable silence. Zoe in the back seat still writing in her diary. Mom and Dad held hands in the front seat, the first peace they'd known in months visible in their relaxed shoulders. Think she'll actually pay the restitution? Zoe asked. She'll have to, Dad said. Elizabeth was smart to get that legal framework in place. But we should still document everything, Mom added. Every payment, every communication, no more assuming good faith. Our house looked different somehow. The same structure, but without the weight of false violations hanging over it. Dad immediately went to the garage and pulled out paint cans. What are you doing? Mom asked. Painting the shutters purple, he said defiantly. Always wanted purple shutters. We all laughed, the sound echoing through our home. Real laughter, not the strained politeness of recent months. Zoe set up a command center at the kitchen table impossible, organizing all our documentation into a comprehensive filing system. We need backups of backups, she muttered, creating cloud storage accounts. My phone buzzed with messages. Cousins I hadn't heard from in months, reaching out with apologies and support. Former coworkers who'd heard about my promotion. Even some HOA board members, asking for advice on preventing future abuse. You're famous, Zoe teased. The guy who took down Penelope Mitchell. We took her down, I corrected. All of us. Together. Elizabeth texted late that night. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when everyone else just saw the show. For standing up when it cost you everything. For not giving up when she tried to destroy you. I texted back. Family stands up for family. The real kind. The real kind, she agreed. Sunday morning brought unexpected visitors. 3 other families from the neighborhood, all carrying thick folders. We heard about the HOA meeting, Mrs. Chen said. About Penelope's fake violations. We've been getting them too. Thought we were going crazy. We spent the morning comparing notes. Penelope's abuse of power extended far beyond our family. Dozens of homeowners had received bogus fines, always just small enough that fighting them seemed more trouble than paying. Class action lawsuit, Dad suggested. Already contacted a lawyer, Mr. Peterson said. Penelope Mitchell is done in this neighborhood. By afternoon, a Facebook group had formed. HOA Accountability Watch. Within hours, it had over 100 members, all sharing stories of suspicious fines and mysterious violations. Zoe monitored the page, documenting everything. This is bigger than we thought. She's been doing this for years. My sister returned from her camp orientation glowing with excitement. The mentor is amazing. She's working on coral restoration in the Gulf. Said I could assist with her research this summer. That's wonderful, Mom said, then frowned. But can we afford full scholarship? Zoe reminded her. Everything's covered, even transportation. The relief on our parents' faces was palpable. After months of financial strain, not having to worry about one expense felt like a miracle. Jake stopped by that evening, keys to his new apartment in hand. Uncle Robert gave me the corner unit, the one with the good view, said it was the least he could do. He looked healthier already, the stress of homelessness lifting from his shoulders. I start my new job tomorrow. Data entry, but it's stable. Regular hours, decent pay. That's great, I said, genuinely happy for him. Couldn't have done it without that recording you made. Proved I never missed rent. My new employer was impressed by the documentation. We ordered pizza, a luxury we couldn't have afforded weeks ago. As we ate, we planned how to ensure Penelope followed through on restitution, how to support other families she'd targeted, how to rebuild what she'd tried to destroy. We need a warning system, Zoe suggested. People like Penelope don't just disappear. They find new victims. Already on it, Elizabeth said, joining us for dinner. I'm working with the state attorney's office. They're very interested in patterns of elder financial abuse. Monday morning, I started my new position at Walmart, department manager, with a team of 12 under me. My first act was implementing a documentation system for all decisions. Transparency protects everyone, I told my team. No more mysterious hour cuts or unexplained changes. Word had spread about what happened. Employees approached me throughout the day, sharing their own stories of workplace retaliation and favoritism. We need a union, one cashier said bluntly. Someone to stand up for us. Let's start with better documentation, I suggested. Build our case properly. That evening, the first restitution payment arrived. Penelope had transferred $5,000 to Grandma's account. Only $10,000 more to go, but it was a start. She actually paid, Mom said, surprised. She doesn't have a choice, Elizabeth explained. The court filing I prepared makes it a criminal matter if she defaults. Zoe updated her master spreadsheet, tracking every payment and deadline. We'll know instantly if she misses one. Tuesday brought more revelations. The regional Walmart manager who'd cut my hours, he'd been doing similar favors for friends for years. Corporate launched a full investigation based on my documentation. You might get called to testify, my manager warned. They're taking this seriously. Good, I said. It needs to be serious. Mom's first day back at school was triumphant. Parents who'd shunned her now approached with apologies. The official letter from the school board had been thorough, explaining exactly how false rumors had been spread. Mrs. Henderson actually hugged me, Mom said, still seeming surprised. Said she felt terrible for believing gossip. Dad's company not only cleared him of any wrongdoing, but offered him a flexible schedule to accommodate his medical needs. My supervisor said I should have come to them sooner. They had no idea I was being targeted. Wednesday, Elizabeth called with news. Penelope's trying to sell her house, needs the money for restitution and legal fees. Good, Grandma said firmly. Let her downsize. See how it feels to count pennies. But Zoe looked troubled. Where will she go? Who will she target next? It was a sobering thought. Penelope might be defeated here, but personality disorders don't just disappear. She'd find new victims, new systems to exploit. We can't save everyone, Elizabeth said gently, but we can document what happened here, create a record that follows her. Thursday's mail brought legal documents, the HOA's formal settlement offer, full restitution for all false fines plus damages. Dad whistled at the number. This covers everything. The loan interest, the time off work, even legal fees. Take it, Elizabeth advised. It's fair, and it ends this chapter. Mom and Dad signed immediately. One less battle to fight. Friday afternoon, Grandma called a family meeting. I've been thinking about the house. It's too big for just me. We all tensed, remembering Penelope's plan to sell it. I want to turn it into something useful. Maybe apartments for family members who need temporary housing, or a community center for elder advocacy. That's beautiful, Zoe said. But can you afford, with the restitution money and my recovered savings? Yes, and Elizabeth's already researching the legal structure. It felt like poetic justice. The house Penelope had tried to steal becoming a resource for people she'd tried to hurt. Saturday marked 1 week since the birthday party confrontation. Jake had settled into his apartment. My sister was preparing for camp. Mom and Dad had painted their shutters bright purple. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. We survived, Dad said, admiring his purple shutters. She threw everything at us, and we survived. More than survived, Mom corrected. We're stronger. Zoe finished her latest diary entry, closing the notebook with satisfaction. 5 years of documentation. Think I should publish it? Maybe, I said. Could help other families recognize the patterns. The diary of a family scapegoat, she mused. Or how to document a narcissist. honest. We laughed, but there was truth in it. Zoe's careful documentation had saved us all. Sunday dinner was at Aunt Patricia's house. Simple spaghetti and garlic bread, but the warmth was genuine. No judgment, no performance, just family. I've been thinking, Aunt Patricia said. We all enabled Penelope, looked the other way when she was cruel because it wasn't directed at us. Until it was, Uncle Michael added quietly. Never again, Aunt Patricia said firmly. We call out cruelty when we see it. No more missing steps. The second week brought normalcy. Work, school, daily life without constant crisis. It felt strange not checking for HOA violations or fielding emergency calls. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, Mom admitted. It might, Elizabeth said honestly. Penelope hasn't given up, just retreated, but we're ready now. Zoe's Facebook group had grown to 300 members. Stories poured in from across the state. Penelope's pattern of abuse wasn't unique, just particularly well documented. We should create a resource guide, Zoe suggested. How to recognize institutional abuse, how to document it, how to fight back. She spent evenings writing, turning her diary into something larger, a handbook for survival. My work at Walmart improved daily. The transparency initiatives I'd implemented were showing results. Employees felt heard, schedules were fair, and productivity actually increased. Corporate wants to roll out your system company-wide, my manager told me. You might have a future in corporate training, but I liked the store level, liked seeing the direct impact of good management, liked that my employees trusted me because I'd fought for fairness. The third restitution payment arrived on schedule. Penelope was selling everything, according to the Gossip Network. Her designer purses, jewelry, even furniture. I almost feel sorry for her, Mom said. Don't, Grandma said sharply. She chose cruelty. Every single time she chose to hurt rather than help. Jake's stability improved weekly. Regular work, safe housing, and no constant threat of eviction had transformed him. He even started dating someone, a teacher from my sister's school who'd heard his story and admired his resilience. She says I'm brave, he told me, seeming puzzled, for surviving what Penelope put me through. You are, I assured him. We all are. Elizabeth's promotion came with unexpected benefits. Her increased visibility in the legal community led to speaking engagements about elder abuse. She donated the fees to Grandma's community center project. It's coming full circle, she said. The money Penelope tried to steal funding protection for other victims. My sister thrived at camp. Daily texts about coral samples and ocean acidification replaced the withdrawn silence of previous months. She'd found her passion again, stronger for having nearly lost it. The mentor says I have real potential, she told us during a video call, maybe even scholarship potential for college. Our parents exchanged relieved glances. College funding had been another worry Penelope's campaign had intensified. By the fourth week, patterns emerged. The family members who genuinely reflected on their enabling behavior stayed close. Others drifted away, uncomfortable with accountability. Natural selection, Zoe called it. The toxic people removed themselves. Her handbook was taking shape. Clear sections on recognizing manipulation, documenting abuse, building support networks. Elizabeth reviewed it for legal accuracy while I checked for readability. This could really help people, Elizabeth said. We should find a publisher. Penelope made one last attempt at contact, a letter to Grandma, full of manipulation and false remorse. Grandma read it aloud at family dinner. I only wanted what was best for you, she read mockingly. My methods may have been misguided, but my intentions were pure. Classic non-apology, Zoe noted, adding it to her examples of manipulation tactics. Grandma tore up the letter. No response. Silence is the best response to narcissists. Month 2 brought stability. The restitution payments continued. Our family bonds strengthened. The community center project moved forward with architectural plans and zoning permits. We're building something, Grandma said, reviewing blueprints. Something that will outlast all of us. I thought about that often, how Penelope's cruelty had ultimately created something beautiful, a family that truly supported each other, a community aware of institutional abuse, resources for future victims. My position at Walmart evolved into something more than management. I became the unofficial advocate for employee rights, the person corporate called when they needed ground-level perspective. You have a gift, my regional manager said, for seeing systems and making them more human. Mom thrived in her new role at school. The promotion came with responsibilities she embraced, creating better communication systems, protecting employee rights, ensuring transparency. I learned from the best, she told Zoe. Your documentation system is now school policy. Dad's health improved without constant stress. His doctor was amazed at the transformation. Whatever you're doing differently, keep doing it. We removed a tumor, Dad told him, a Penelope-shaped tumor. Jake's relationship blossomed. His girlfriend Amy fit seamlessly into our rebuilt family. She'd experienced her own workplace harassment and understood the importance of documentation. You all saved each other, she observed at one dinner, by refusing to let her isolate you. Elizabeth's speaking engagements expanded. Law schools invited her to lecture on elder abuse. Bar associations requested seminars on documentation. She always credited Zoe's diary as the key to everything. A 13-year-old taught us all how to fight back, she'd say, by simply writing down the truth. Zoe's handbook found a publisher, a small press specializing in self-help resources. The advance wasn't huge, but Zoe donated it to the community center anyway. It was never about money, she said. It's about making sure no one else goes through this alone. Summer arrived with my sister returning from camp, brown from the sun and bursting with stories. She'd helped discover a new coral restoration technique, earning a mention in a scientific paper. They want me to co-author the next one, she said breathlessly. A real scientific paper. Me. The transformation was complete. The withdrawn, defeated girl Penelope had tried to crush had become a confident young scientist. Grandma's 86th birthday approached. This time we planned carefully. Security measures in place, documentation ready, everyone aware Penelope might attempt something, but she didn't come, couldn't come. The restraining order Elizabeth had quietly obtained ensured that. Instead, we celebrated peacefully. Potluck dishes, homemade cake, genuine laughter. The community center plans were revealed. It would be called the Truth and Reconciliation House, for families torn apart by lies, Grandma explained, to find truth and rebuild rebuild. Uncle Robert had become one of the center's biggest supporters, donating a significant sum. I enabled her for years. This is my amends. Aunt Patricia organized fundraising events. Other HOA abuse victims contributed. Even Nathan, despite his initial involvement with Penelope, offered pro bono legal services. We're turning poison into medicine, he said. The final restitution payment arrived exactly on schedule. $15,000 returned, though the true cost of Penelope's cruelty could never be calculated in money. It's over, Mom said, watching Zoe update her spreadsheet one last time. The legal part, Elizabeth corrected. The healing continues. And it did. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt trust. Not just within our family, but in systems. We'd learned to document, verify, and protect ourselves while still remaining open to connection. My promotion to regional trainer came with travel requirements. I visited stores across the state, teaching managers how to recognize and prevent workplace retaliation. You're the Penelope vaccine, one manager joked, immunizing us against toxic manipulation. Zoe's book launched to modest but meaningful success. Support groups adopted it, libraries ordered copies. Most importantly, victims found validation and practical tools. Someone messaged me, Zoe told us, said my book helped them recognize what their mother-in-law was doing. They're free now. Those messages came regularly, families recognizing patterns, victims finding courage, systems becoming more transparent. The community center broke ground on a crisp October morning. Grandma wielded the ceremonial shovel with strength that belied her age. For Elizabeth, she said, turning the first earth, who gave everything to family and nearly lost herself. Elizabeth cried openly, surrounded by the family who'd finally learned to see her. Construction proceeded through fall. We all contributed. Time, money, expertise. Even former victims of Penelope's HOA abuse joined in, creating something positive from shared pain. It's like group therapy with power tools, Jake observed, helping frame walls. His wedding to Amy was small, but joyful. Held at Grandma's house, catered by family, genuine in every way. No performance, no judgment, just celebration. To found family, Amy toasted, the kind you choose to keep. Winter arrived with the center nearly complete. Zoe's book had sparked a minor movement. Support groups formed, documentation templates circulated, workplace retaliation policies strengthened. You changed things, a reporter told her during an interview. Made invisible abuse visible. We all did, Zoe insisted. I just wrote it down. My sister's early acceptance to university came with a full scholarship for marine biology. Her camp research had impressed admissions committees. I wouldn't have this without that camp, she said. And I wouldn't have camp without you all fighting for me. The ripples continued. Other HOAs implemented oversight measures. Workplaces created better documentation systems. Elder care facilities improved financial monitoring. Penelope's legacy, Elizabeth said wryly. She taught us all what to watch for. Christmas approached, the anniversary of when everything started. Elizabeth announced she'd host again, but differently, she said. Everyone brings something. Everyone helps. No more martyrdom. The planning was communal. Assignments distributed fairly. Costs shared equally. No one person carrying the burden. This is what family looks like, Grandma observed, when it's healthy. Penelope's house finally sold. The Gossip Network reported she'd moved to another state, starting fresh where no one knew her history.